Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sorting Hat Podcast, the show where everything and anything can and will be sorted. I, as always, am your host, Michael Barryte, joined by my co-host, Reed.
Help!
You need somebody? Not just
Not
anybody?
just anybody. I need a specific person to help us out with this.
And that person is going to be our returning guest, Derek Heath.
Hello.
Derek.
That's my Beatles voice.
Derek is a graphic designer, longtime friend, part of the band The Regal Peaches.
Mm-hmm.
From the previous week, you heard us discussing sides 1 and 2 of the Beatles White Album. We are back for part 2, where we are going to be sorting sides 3 and 4 in this wonderful, wonderful album into the various houses of Hogwarts. So let's just dive right into it.
Let's get into it.
The first time I heard this first song, if I'm remembering correctly, is in the John Hughes film 16 Candles. And it's sang by the nerd character in a car when this woman, when Molly Ringwald's like, "It's my birthday." Yes, it is your birthday.
It's become like the song to play for people on their birthday if you don't want to play Happy Birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They hated this song almost immediately after recording it. Oh, this is the one. Okay, wait. I have the quote here. And it's that, okay. So John Lennon in 1980, like the year that he died, he did an interview with Playboy. And he says, we just made it up on the spot. I think Paul wanted to write a song like Happy Birthday Baby, which was an old 50s hit. He says, it was sort of made up in the studio. It was a piece of garbage. So they apparently just like wrote it and recorded it in one day. And a lot of people don't like I feel like everyone that I talk to that's like sort of like a hip Beatles fan is like, ugh, birthday, it's just trash.
It doesn't sound like their other music.
But I love it. It's like really, it's like a fun, energetic, like just rockin', slamming song about a birthday.
I like it too. It's campy and self-aware in a way that I like as a little gay man.
They're just rocking out.
Yeah, like at the very least, from a purely melodic standpoint, it's like such a delight. Lyrics are just
the hook is it stays with you for life.
No, it is. It feels like the basis of what a lot of like Swedish, like all those Swedish powerhouse pop writers write. Like they're just like very specific message, and it's all going to be concise and clean and make music nerds hate it.
That said, this is definitely a Hufflepuff, right?
I think it is. Yeah.
I would agree.
Like you could maybe make the argument that it's a Gryffindor.
Birthdays in general, when you're an adult, are Hufflepuffy as shit. Because you're just like, guys, I was born.
We're going to have a good time.
Let's have a cake. Cake can be there.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm of the mindset now for me, like coming up on the big 3-0.
Ooh, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
No, I'm not terribly worried.
That was the age of Danny Tanner in Full House.
That's
it started.
That's how you gauge everything by how old people in Full House
are. Well, because
are.
they seem like such adults. So now knowing I'm the same age as the character of Danny Tanner, who had 3 children, and one of them was almost a teenager.
Yeah, I gotta pick it up.
Woof.
Yeah.
But I always see birthdays as merely like, it's not so much about I want cake and presents, because I don't really give a shit about that. But I just love seeing all my friends. And this is a great excuse to bring all my favorite people around. Like,
I think that's the only legitimate way to celebrate a birthday now. It's just like,
you're looking,
let's just hang out, guys.
If you're looking for it to be a celebration of yourself, like, I mean, if that's what makes you thrilled at your birthday, I guess I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, no. So this song feels like the kind of person who would want a big to-do and would want a big party.
It's just like about a party in general, because it's not even in the first 2 lines there. You say it's your birthday. It's my birthday too. Yeah. So it's just like,
it's everybody's birthday.
I don't care whose birthday it is. Let's just have a good time.
Right.
Yeah, Hufflepuff. Easy sorting.
Huff.
Your Blues.
Your Blues is a like outpouring of just like sadness and despair, but in the tradition of blues as being like not like a mopey sad song, but just like,
yeah,
like, oh, I want to die. If I ain't dead already, you know the reason why.
And it's not quite in the same camp about I'm so tired.
No.
Because this is we're rubber banding hard.
He's like, I want to die.
Yeah, we're going past the point of exhaustion just to like, I want to be sleeping forever.
Yeah.
No, and this one's influenced apparently by the British blues movement around the same time, which included acts like Fleetwood Mac. So you're seeing a lot of like the same sort of thematic elements coming through in this song, as John was like influenced by like newer sounds coming out that they had nothing to do with.
Yeah. But he also includes like some sort of cosmic lyrics in this too, which I think probably came from like, his time in India. Like
it's like my mother was of the sky, my father was of the earth, but I am of the universe.
That sounds like some fucking
and
Led
you know
Zeppelin
what it's
shit.
worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that like in the late 60s, there started to be this genre of like rootsy blues, but like mixed with like some sort of almost like cultish
black crack
spiritual
cloud crossed my mind, blue mist round my soul, feel so suicidal, even
Good
hate
Lord.
my rock and roll. Like that's
that's like a page from his like some emo kids
right. This
diary.
is if this showed up in a My Chemical Romance song,
You
I
mean
would
0%
be like
surprised.
no, not at all. And also going back to our previous discussion of karaokeing, Welcome to the Black Parade is always going to be the song I'll sing during karaoke because it's so damn fun.
That album is a masterpiece.
Yeah,
I think it's the only true emo masterpiece.
I would agree with you 100%.
What's your karaoke? Like if you like, I only have one shot to lip sync for my life, honey, or karaoke for my life.
I did it at that karaoke. It's Beautiful by Christina Aguilera.
Oh, but like honestly, anything Derek gets thrown, like you were also like, no, I'm dead serious because there were a handful of songs that you were like, I don't know what this song is, but by the time the second chorus came in, you just like had a mic and were like low level putting in harmonies.
I'm trying to spice it up.
Yeah, but like that's
Mine is Tell Him by the Exciters, which is not necessarily a hot jam for anyone right now, but
I love think I've heard you
I
sing
love
that
60s
one.
girl groups because it's not always included in libraries.
You did the Zombies or
Zombie by the
Cranberries. Yeah. But like you tore that shit up at the holiday party.
My favorite is Tell Him by the Exciters because it has such a dynamic range for the lead singer because it starts out with
it's
her
fun
going,
to push yourself
I
in karaoke.
know something about love. It's like, what is this? It doesn't sound like anything else, even in the
I
girl
love that
groups.
song.
It's like such a because like the other girl groups would have like Diana Ross had like that power in her voice, but a lot of it was a lot more like just really sinking into it and being really like in tune. But the Exciters were like, come on, baby. It was very much like
the name of the band is like very accurate.
Yeah. A lot of their songs were just very peppy and very they like more surface level pop.
Yeah, and it's not as much
them.
about like having like a beautiful voice as it is the energy of the music.
Yeah, no, it's like the Exciters are so underrated. I love them so much.
I definitely heard a lot of them growing up, and when we were karaokeing, we wound up on like a Frankie Valli, and who else did we just were doing a lot of like older 50s, 60s bands. We did do some
girl groups. I picked Be My Baby because it's like the go-to, and I figured everyone would know it. Here's a weird one. This is before you showed up. I'm not going to name names, but I started. I was like, okay, I'm gonna. I've been like, no one really wanted to start. Like, okay, I'll start it. I'll like break the ice. I'll pick something that everybody knows and that everyone can like really lean into and sing. And so I picked Born to Run.
Yeah.
And fucking nobody knew it. What the hell? How does a room full of people not know Born to Run?
I don't. Springs. How old were the people in the room? Because if they're under 30, they're not going to know it. If they are exactly 30 or older, they'll know it.
Speaking of the Beatles, it's weird that I'll like make Beatles references and like people. I guess we were like maybe the last generation that was really like saturated with the Beatles because there's because people like 25 and below, I really like don't resonate that much.
You were saying that your mom grew up, like graduated from high school in 65. Like my mom is in a similar age bracket. So like we definitely
We were born in the Beatles, like
introduced to it. I think if your parents, even until like late 70s, like you were probably going to have Beatles in your household.
I'll explain why I think this is, because I think that's true. And it's also because we're the last generation who didn't have access to any song they wanted to listen to at any moment on the internet.
Yeah.
So the only music that you're getting when you're growing up is music from your parents.
Yep.
And then you'll get into music when you're able to go and physically buy it somewhere.
Right.
But so people have so many choices now. It's not going to be a thing where you're going to listen to the same album over and over again, because you don't have just only like 20 different albums to listen to.
You don't go on a road trip and you aren't limited in any way. You literally put on Pandora or Spotify or whatever.
And that's why like another Beatles can't really happen, because there's not like culture isn't enough of a singular thing anymore.
It's not
where
saturated
everyone's
enough.
united by like the
it's
same.
all been distilled across so many different mediums for everybody to fall into like a pocket of this particular sound. And
no, I agree. We have too many options and it's ruining art.
Yeah, man.
Nothing special if everybody.
It's difficult.
We live in a
things
bleak
to be special.
dystopian world for art. It's awful. Nobody can succeed.
No, I think that there's going to be a movement that comes out of that, but it's just a lot harder. It's a lot harder
Have
to
we
have
sorted
something
your
special.
blues?
This
We
is the
gotta
first
know-
time that we've been. Oh yeah, let's sort it.
No. Continue your thought.
Oh, I was gonna say right now in like the current cultural climate, which I'll only just breeze past. I feel like things that are happening, it's perhaps the first time that we have a little more of like a universal, as in at least 50% of on one way, 50% the other way, of like something to rally behind as far as making. I'm interested to see what art comes out of the next like 5 years, 10 years, this
political
current
atmosphere.
era, because it's the first time that there's like something that is so omnipresent in our lives that so many people are like either this way or that way
and
about.
not even specific to like the United States. Like everywhere
whole
is
planet.
experiencing this weird, like, are we isolationist? Are we inclusive? What's our
It seems
deal?
like the first time since the 60s that we're seeing like
it's a radical culture shift
that no one was prepared for on the level that it's happening at. And
No,
I think
because I don't think
like,
people could have. Even I like. No one anticipated that having this much access to everyone else's lives would create a backlash of wanting to feel separated from people and have their own distinct identity. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the racism in this world.
Well, it's very weird because you also have so many people who, like, I even recognize that I have the ideology that I'm being surveyed all the time. Like, I don't give a
Michael won't sign. Are you still not on Venmo?
I know I'm on Venmo.
Oh, okay, great.
But like at the same time, there are some components that, like, as far as financial availability, I'm very against it. And actually, I'm on Venmo, but only because I'm not linked to a credit card or a bank account. I just, by accident, someone was like, I need to pay you.
Yeah.
Here's Venmo money.
Yeah.
So like, I just have Venmo money that is like digital for me, but I've never
And it's not
put any
connected to a
money.
bank
We're
account.
the tail end of a generation that gives a shit about any of that.
But like,
We're the last generation. We're like the last generation that remembers life before the internet.
I'm probably young and cool because part of me is very much like it feels arbitrary in some cases to me.
Mhm.
Like I don't necessarily want someone being able to get into my account and take my funds out, which I'm sure is
I don't
what
think
you're worried
anybody's
about.
into that. Yeah.
But a lot of me is like, okay, I already do a bunch of code switching in my day-to-day, like person-to-person interactions. So like this general sense of like privacy, I can kind of see where younger people are coming from in terms of saying what does any of it mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I definitely care less about it than my parents.
I'm just of the mindset that like we're being listened to and surveyed all the time because cameras are goddamn everywhere.
Yeah.
And like even, you can do as much as you want on your end from like a privacy standpoint, like put the Post-it over the camera or like put your phone, away.
Yeah.
Michael Barryte's living in his own personal Black Mirror every day, all day.
But you walk outside and it's like everything can watch you. So like there's the part of me that is like, all right,
you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, so there's no point in getting so beyond.
If someone's going to
lost
misconstrue
over
something.
On
that.
the other side of
They're
it,
gonna do
though, it makes corruption a lot harder to get away with.
Theoretically.
From authority figure. Theoretically.
Yeah.
But I would say we would not have.
There's a lot more accountability.
This Russian investigation that's happening would not be possible without the internet and without a loud, like, digital presence saying, we know these things are happening, and we wouldn't also know how.
But what's weird about it is, even with all that information, it's not like necessarily leading to the result that you expect. Having the information, it's kind of like we have a wealth of information now. We have so much.
Well, it's just
that
like
there's this backlash where it's like, well, you know what? Like, fuck all of that.
Oh no, for sure. No, because we're now questioning all of the modes of ways that we use to get information, like especially like journalism and all of these sources now. It feels very confusing and frustrating most of the time to not know what is actually true.
The art is going to start to be really great.
Yeah.
I'm already seeing it in like the stuff that like our Father John Misty just came out with an album that's like a reflection on the way that humanity is going. Like the new Arcade Fire songs are very like, I don't know. That's a different discussion.
Right. But yes, the art scene is always going to explode in fun and unique ways as a result of sort of cultural turbulence.
So for
your blues is a Slytherin.
Okay, moving on. Mother Nature's Son.
So what happened with this song was that there was a competition between John and Paul.
You mean all of the Beatles?
Yeah. All of their songs were sort of that. But this was like, let's write a song about nature. And John wrote a song called, what is it called? Child of Nature. He wrote a song called Child of Nature that ended up being a different song called Jealous Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Later. But yeah, it used to be, I'm just a child of nature. And they left that one off in favor of Paul's. I don't know who made the decision. Maybe they got Ringo to choose. I don't know.
Ringo's always the designated tiebreaker, or they just like flip a drumstick.
Don't make me choose, guys.
I
don't want to end up in the room again.
Yeah, I love Ringo's like, how am I the tiebreaker? George Harrison's right there, and Harrison's like, I'm not getting involved.
Yeah.
George is just
don't make us punish you again, Ringo.
George is just meditating in the corner.
Yeah.
I would just like to play the drums, please.
So yeah, this is just a song about nature. I think Mother Nature's Son, just a lovely little song about singing songs, and it's a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Jumping on down to Everybody's Got Something to Hide.
Except for me and my monkey.
Yes.
There's a debate over what this song is about, because it's another one of these Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds type situations.
No,
where,
for sure.
And on the surface, I mean, John called Yoko his monkey, which, you know, I guess that's cute.
No, yeah, I can see where he's getting with that.
So that was like a pet name that he had for her, and they were in love. They were, he had her shacking up in the studio. She was around. Everybody was really uncomfortable with it, understandably, but because they were so in the moment and so like, either in love or possibly like in denial of what was going on, because John was also married, they didn't give a shit. They were just like, this is great. We love being with each other. We're being honest. We're like living our honest truth. And everybody else is just like hung up on like their hang-ups, and they're like taking it out on us. Everybody's got something to hide but me and my monkey. But also monkey is slang for heroin in England. And they really liked heroin at this time. Sort
of goes a little back to our privacy discussion of just how like some people are like, I guess that's the argument of like, we're the pure ones. We're the ones who,
like they were obsessed with this idea of honesty. Like that's why they did that bed installation thing. Like they were just like look at everyone else like going through their lives, man, and they're not being themselves. Look at us, we're so honest. I was like, fuck
which is such a weird song to get like the people you're talking about to play on.
Yeah.
Right.
Like here's this part Ringo, here's this part Paul, and they're playing this song that's just like roasting them.
It's one of those things. They like are just given the sheet music, not the lyrics. And then as the song is going, they're like, man, we're going to have a conversation after this. Your inside is
out. Your outside is in. This song is a fucking jammer though. Oh man, I love this song. the riffs are great. It's just it turns it out the whole time. He's screaming the whole time. It's one of the most underrated Beatles songs in my opinion.
It's aggressive and fun.
Yeah, it's aggressive and fun. Where do I put it?
I mean, we're very often just like, oh, well,
I
John,
feel like it's John
Slytherin.
But I want to give this one some extra thought.
Right. No,
let's figure out what it's not first.
Well, it's not a Ravenclaw.
It's not a Ravenclaw. It's certainly not a Hufflepuff.
Right. So we're to the two extreme sides.
Right. I think that I don't think that it can be a Gryffindor because I don't think it's like there's it seems like there's a lack of self-awareness in there. And I don't
think
know
if it were also perhaps more
it's very
reflexive.
Self-righteous.
Yes, that's the reason why. If it were speaking to like a larger society, saying we as a culture, have nothing to hide or something like that.
It's pretty holier than thou.
Like if it were speaking to Britain at the time, like even if it were like political, but saying like England is not like England has nothing to hide, but the rest of the world is trying to hide something.
Yeah.
If it had like that political slant, like we still are existing in the Cold War, like if they were trying to comment on that in some way, then you could be like, yeah, I think that's a Gryffindor. But because it is very much like, hey, other members of the band, maybe you guys should think about being a little more honest with yourselves because we're living the right life.
My instinct is to like play against type. I feel like I keep wanting to not just dump John songs into Slytherin, but it's fucking Slytherin, man. It's so self-righteous, and it's like there's some shreds of truth in there, but he's really
coming for everybody.
He's the authority here.
He's reading everybody to filth on this album.
He's the authority, and it's like you're not in our club.
For sure.
Me and my monkey got this club going.
No, very exclusive. Yeah.
It's really a diss track.
This is quintessentially Slytherin, I feel like.
Can you imagine like a hip hop artist doing a diss track and then asking that person to be on the diss track?
Right?
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
I feel
that was like Fleetwood Mac's like
it's
whole
kind
reason
of
for
like,
being.
There was that very brief controversy last year about how Kanye, I guess, asked to mention that he made Taylor Swift famous, and then Taylor Swift was like, "That's not true." And then Kim Kardashian put out the video of them, of
her saying, "Yeah, this song's great."
Yeah,
but can you imagine if like Kanye put out that track and then Taylor Swift like was doing like the bridge or something?
Right. Yeah, it'd be bizarre.
I love shit like that though. I feel like that kind of like dissonance in personal relationships.
So you're waiting
if
for
it
like
makes it onto the record is some of the most like because relationships between people are messy. Like you end up being friends with people who have slighted you or wronged you, and you just kind of like work through that stuff.
So you're waiting for like the Drake Meek Mill like
it would be amazing
collab of the century.
Everybody wants that shit. Everybody wants to see like what would happen if you not even burying that hatchet, though.
In one another's head.
All right, so that one's sorted, and now we're going on to Sexy Sadie, which is not a woman. Sorry, guys. This song is written about the Maharishi.
Mm-hmm.
So
there
like,
we go.
The Maharishi was so sexy.
So like that, like we mentioned in the previous episode, when the Beatles went out to it was India, right?
It was India.
Yeah, went to India to study with this Maharishi.
Rishikesh.
There are allegations that like he was sexually inappropriate in ways that like went like against like the ideology that he was teaching. Like apparently he even hit on Mia Farrow while she was out there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
so
blame
Lennon started to get like the sense of like, oh, this guy's bullshit. I heard a rumor apparently that he got so shady that when he went to go leave, the Maharishi was like, why are you leaving me? Like, what's happening? Why are you not happy? Yeah. And Lennon just went, if you're so cosmic, you'd know why. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
That is so.
I feel like I know nothing about the Maharishi. Maybe he was a great guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to judge.
So when Lennon got back.
But I definitely have the same sort of suspicions about people that are like have so much power over others' destinies.
I always am suspicious of someone who has a revelation about some sort of spirituality, but then also is like, I should be running the clipboard, by the way. the God said I'm in charge.
Ego
of this.
mixed with enlightenment is a dangerous combination, man.
Well, you can definitely, like, knowing that context and looking at the lyrics now of Sexy Sadie, what
Just
have you
replace it
done?
with Maharishi.
You made a fool of everyone.
And you should replace it because Maharishi was the original title of this song.
Yeah.
Harrison, who, as we discussed in the previous episode, still subscribed to a lot of this ideology.
Right. So he was like, no, you can't do that. You can't be so overt. And they're like, all right.
He was like, well, we can do this song. You have to change all the mentions of
Harrison
Maharishi.
knew.
Yeah. You have to change it to something else.
It's crazy, like, the concessions that these guys made for each other. Even, like, they were just, like, roasting each other and killing each other's, like, darlings in all these songs. And yet they still were like, all right.
The best part about that, like, word change is, like, it's the same count syllables. Like, Maharishi and Sexy Sadie is 4 syllables. And they're like, that's easy enough. Like, you didn't need us to do anything because we only always refer to it as Sexy Sadie, not
You'll get
Sadie.
yours yet.
Yeah.
Phew.
Do you think then this is a Gryffindor as, like, a damning indictment of the religious community that they came from?
I think Lennon didn't write this to be like, I'm going to expose you for everyone else.
Yeah.
I think he was pissed that he had been fooled for a time.
I think it was just, revenge. I think it was like just him being angry.
Then a Slytherin.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's
we
another
don't.
John
I don't.
Slytherin,
You
man.
know, we haven't sorted every Lennon song into Slytherin.
He's had some Ravenclaws too, right?
Yeah,
Predominantly, though.
And like I said, in different parts of his career, it could be
life.
something. But a lot of these are just him. Like, he's like, I got shit to get out of my system.
Right.
I gotta confront some people.
He was in a Slytherin place, and a lot of his qualms are righteous qualms,
Right.
but they're very, like, internalized.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem a lot of his songs, like, weren't about, like, he was processing his own shit, right?
Yeah,
then,
I mean,
as
I
opposed
still
to, like,
think
the
there
world's
could be an
issues.
argument that Sexy Sadie could go Gryffindor because it's not. It's obviously using you in an accusatory sense, and you could assume but he doesn't in this, as far as I can recall.
Right.
But that's for you,
Yeah.
lovely listeners,
You
to
made a fool
decide.
of everyone. I think you made a fool of me.
Right. But he's saying you made a fool of everyone.
Right.
So if he had said you made a fool of me, I'd be like 100%. I'm with you, but I'm going to leave that one a little more. That door
Give
is
him a little bit of benefit.
that
of the
door's
doubt.
ajar. That door's ajar.
Okay.
Helter Skelter.
Oh my God. All right. So this is maybe the coolest thing that Paul has ever done, was make Helter Skelter. In that he was just, so what happened was they, he heard this, the Who was always, like, a little more raucous than the Beatles. They were a little more, they were already smashing guitars at this point.
They were more punk. Yeah.
They were kind of the original bad boys of rock.
Mhm.
And so they came out with a song, which you may or may not have heard, called "I Can See for Miles," which is a real, like aggressive, very, like, ominous sounding rock song, but that it's, like, soars at certain points, but it kind of thrashes a lot. But not that much. It just was another step in the direction of kind of an unhinged version of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And Paul read this review about it. He read this review of the song that was talking about it in these terms of, like, it's chaos and it's this and that and everything. And then Paul was like, whoa, this sounds like the coolest song I've ever heard. And he listened to it and he was like, I liked it, but it wasn't really as extreme as they were describing it.
Yeah. He's like, we can
He's
go
like,
further with
he's
it.
like, I can write the song that they were talking about. And
No,
so,
and I think a large sense of, like, how music was changing at this time was, like, a sense of, like, how can we get away from propriety, and how can we like use, like, the influences of, like, the Dadaists and everyone else who were like really, like, arguing for what sound even should be in music.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that this album seems most affected by others,
yeah.
I would say, than, like, up until this point, they've been, like, hey, we've got like this sound. Hey, we're trying some stuff out. And this time we've got references to the Beach Boys. We've got
Right.
Eric Clapton
When
coming
they were
in on
around
things.
a lot of other people
Right,
while they were
while
writing
they were
it,
in India, too, yeah.
It wasn't just them like hanging out by themselves.
So
It was,
the bubble was a little less, they were a little less isolated.
and they were a little less connected to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bonds had been broken, and so they were all drawing from their different respective lives.
Again, I don't let this influence the way that you sort, fellas, but
Oh,
Helter
there's
Skelter.
a big Manson one.
Helter Skelter is maybe the song most associated with Charles Manson, because Charles Manson, and this is great, Charles Manson thought Helter Skelter was the name for the apocalypse, the race motivated apocalypse that would happen when black people rose up and killed all the white people. He thought that's how the world would end. What he didn't realize that he didn't know what Helter Skelter meant. In England, Helter Skelter is the name of playground equipment.
It's just a slide.
Yeah, it's a slide.
It's a slide.
He didn't know that a children's slide was basically what he felt was the manifesto for his cult to rise up and fight back against the apocalypse.
Well, for his, it would be the slide of the white man into the bowels of hell.
Yeah. No, he literally thought Helter Skelter was hell. And I can at least understand the aggression of this song.
Right.
Definitely like playing through to
It's
that. For someone who's on a lot of drugs.
Right. It was like an unprecedented level of noise and aggression in a rock song. It was like so far beyond what rock music had been up until that point. It was like taken to the absolute extreme. And like Helter Skelter is another one where like it was written in the blood of the people he killed on the walls of the house. But so in a very Paul move, he made this like super aggressive, like crazy, like raucous rock song, but there's a little slide grin in there because the lyrics are literally just about a slide. Like sliding down a slide and then going back up to the top and like seeing the person at the top again and then going back down the slide, and that's it. And Ringo screams, "I've got blisters on my fingers" at the end.
Right.
Which is just, there's no significance there. It's just famous.
I do love the cry, though.
Yeah.
It's like very solid.
I imagine that he probably just said it like sincerely, and then he went, "Oh, that should be on the track."
Right. Yeah,
Ringo, you did it again.
It was real. Like apparently the actual recording of the song lasted like 30 minutes or something, and they were just like like going for it.
No, and I can imagine just be like, when can we be done with this? Because this is a lot to do for this long.
Guys, ouch! There could have been so many worse things you could have said at the end of that.
Yeah.
The big rock song in the end, like, ow!
This feels like a Hufflepuff to me. What do you guys think? Even though it's so aggressive,
it is just like
it's a song about
it. Wasn't meant to be like scary. It was just meant
it's
to
a
be
song
like
about it's a song about a slide, number one.
Yep.
Right.
Number two, it's somebody seeing something cool and being like, I could do that.
Yep.
Which sometimes can be like, I as a Hufflepuff can sometimes be like, that's edgy. I can try to do that. And then I'm like,
that's true. It was like raw aggression, but it was just Paul like trying to make an aggressive
song. You could see it through the lens of Paul saying "fuck you, I can do it better," which would make it more Slytherin-y.
Maybe, yeah. It's either a Slytherin or a Hufflepuff.
I bet you it's Paul's. I bet you it's like Paul in Paul's head, like his.
But his reasoning for it was a
I can
Gryffindor.
out John.
Mm-hmm.
Like John thinks he's got the the subversive songs on the album. I'm gonna make the scariest, most like rockin' noisy song of all time.
Maybe this is just dorky Slytherin.
I think maybe the lyrics do actually carry it back.
I might say Hufflepuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think it's
I'm just always playing devil's advocate on this sort of stuff to be like, but could I lure you over
that's
here?
That's good.
I am Lucifer.
That's the dynamic that makes this the #1 podcast on the net.
Yes. Everybody be sure to rate us highly on iTunes and Google Play so we can retain that #1 status.
At the top.
Gotta stay at the top. All right.
Don't let it slide.
No, don't let
Just
it slide.
like Helter
Skelter. So now we're long.
This is a song that I never thought twice about until this. Like I've heard it ever since I've started listening to the White Album, and it starts very quietly. And I just this year realized how incredible it is.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound like anything else on the album. It's a George song, and it could be off of like a modern indie rock album. It's got like this sort of echoey, like ethereal production. It's kind of brooding, but then it opens up like here and there into. Anyhow, I don't know what it's about because I've only recently taken notice of this song.
I mean,
what do we got lyrics wise?
lyrics wise, it is very simple.
Yeah.
It's been a long, long, long time. How could I ever have lost you when I loved you?
Oh, it's got to be about the Beatles. It's
Yeah.
got to be about
Right.
his
It's
relationship
it's
with
another
the Beatles.
one of these like, hey guys, let's like try to mellow things out. It also says, it took a long, long time. Now I'm so happy I found you. How I love you. So many tears I was searching. So many tears I was wasting. Oh.
Wow. So I
now-
guess it could be about a lady.
Now I can see you. Be you. How can I ever misplace you? How I want you. Oh, I love you.
Okay.
You know that I need you.
You got the
Oh,
hot
I love
scoop
you.
over there?
Oh, I was
That's
just
it.
gonna say,
Those are all the lyrics.
I know that this one was one of the hardest for them to produce. Apparently, the first like bass session was almost a 24-hour period or something like that.
Whoa.
It was a very, very long, arduous just to get the bass. And I also agree with you that this song could be contemporary but it like in the same vein as like Father John Misty.
Yeah.
This sounds like Father John Misty's lyrics sometimes are super simplistic,
Yep.
and then he just has tons of layers to things.
Yeah.
With his compositions. So this does very much sound like that sort of contemporary sound. I also love apparently like one of the instruments is actually just the rattling of a wine bottle on top of their.
Oh, yeah.
There's
I know
prominent.
exactly where that
there's
happens.
prominent music from an organ, and apparently they were like, "What is this sound that's happening?" And they discovered that a wine bottle on top of the organ was resonating a note that they liked a lot. So that's it's one of the instruments in this song is a wine bottle.
Great.
That's so Beatlesy. I love that they just would like yeah. That was like the entirety of Sgt. Pepper was just them
I feel like-
what if we plugged our microphones into this speaker and then mic'd that and then ran it through an organ?
I feel like the second disc of the White Album is their more like experimental.
trying stuff out.
They're like
It's less I would say it's a slightly less like solid as far as just like winter after winter after winter after winter.
Right.
But it's definitely like interesting. It's more
but sides
interesting.
3 and 4 are the ones where they're just like, hey, but just so you know, like Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour like aren't gone.
Yeah.
They're still in our
We're
DNA.
Still weird.
So do we think that Long 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 might be a
Ooh.
Hufflepuff
There's not really many like
or a Gryffindor?
distinguishing character. There's not like real solid.
Because it's not a Slytherin. I don't feel it's a Ravenclaw.
I feel
No.
like this sounds like a sad Gryffindor song.
Yeah.
They put a lot of work into it. The message was pretty
It
simple.
still feels kind of like a very noble song.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very George just a great guy.
Yeah.
He's just a great guy.
I think there's no hate for George.
I
in
feel
this
like
room.
there are
No.
a couple of different kinds of Beatle fans, as far as like the ones who are into the personal lives of the Beatles,
Mm-hmm.
and you either live for the drama or you don't want the drama. And if you live for the drama, you're a John or Paul.
Yeah.
And if you don't live for the drama, you like George Harrison.
George.
Yeah.
And then if you are a very specific kind of person, you like Ringo Starr.
Yeah. I think everyone's got a little Ringo in him.
I think so
There's
too.
not many people who don't like Ringo.
I got love for. I think it's like saying that you don't like dogs. You're like,
Right.
why?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it.
You got to be a real hateful person to not like Ringo.
That's a solid quote.
It's true.
You got to be a real hateful person.
Yeah. What could you possibly find it to not like about that man?
Yeah.
So now we jump into Revolution 1.
It was Gryffindor, right?
Yeah.
For the last one, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now Revolution 1.
Revolution 1 is the one that everybody, you say you want a revolution. So it's like kind of John's first political song now.
Mhm.
We had George with Piggies. We had Paul with Blackbird.
Mm-hmm.
John's is
We had Warm Gun also being
Oh,
political.
right.
but maybe less overtly political, because using the word revolution at this time.
This is like about, he talks about like Chairman Mao and
oh yeah.
This one, in typical John fashion, is almost like subverting the image of himself. In that, like he's tackling these social issues in like an even more complex way than the like counterculture around him, and that he's like, okay, well, yeah, he was against the Vietnam War and he was everything, but he also was seeing like, all right, but like now even like the counterculture is getting stupid, and like they're not really like, it seems like they have good intentions, but like, where's the plan? Like, is it just like a bunch of teenagers like angsty and like tying their angst to like something? I don't know. I think he was questioning the motives and the sincerity of the the counterculture. Like what? Like, okay, well, yeah, you say you want a revolution, but like now you're like carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, who is like not necessarily a great guy. So how are you really going to make any change if you're just kind of like going to the other extreme now? And so, I think he was kind of trying to be a little bit of a devil's advocate with the people of his own ilk.
He was just calling out everybody and saying like, okay, make sure that what your messaging is correct.
Yeah.
And also like,
that you're actually thinking about what
know
you're doing.
all the shit that you're doing and how it's affecting things, because you're asking for our money to like fight this fight, but then it doesn't seem like you have an understanding of what all of this is a part of.
No, and like I can even like not even like even domestically, like in England and the United States, there are a lot of far left. The far left has never been closely associated with peaceful resolution.
Right.
There's never been a part of at least the United States civil rights movement that started peacefully.
Right.
This like I can think of like the Stonewall Riots are like the most specific that I can think of. Yeah. The Stonewall Riots, which started the gay rights revolution, started when a black trans woman was so pissed off at another police riot happening at the Stonewall Inn, one of the only places where queer folk could go and congregate. She threw a shot glass at a policeman's head and started a police riot.
Damn.
And so I don't necessarily agree with John all the time, but he like, as far as I can tell, he was saying anything violent is not going to end up how you want it. You're going to end up just as bad as your oppressors.
And I think he was also like, from his own experience, he was a real violent guy. He like would beat women and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that he probably saw that as never really leading to a good end, and then was seeing in culture, like, look, like there's good intentions here, but if it's just going to turn into like a war, then where are we getting?
No,
it's just more of the same cycle.
And part of it feels like a rich white dude talking about like not having a full understanding of like the repercussions of being an oppressed group, because like
they were so removed from the culture they were talking about at that point.
I mean, like, lyrics are very cut and dry on this of, we all want to change the world, but when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? Like,
he was not going to join probably with the Black Panthers, who were not necessarily going through the modes that he would approve of. You say you've got
a real solution. Well, we'd all love to see the plan.
Right, but then also, separately, like his plan was like he had his bed in, right? Which was just he and Yoko, and like not passing any judgments on this. But similarly, like, okay, well, what's your plan, John? His plan was to literally lie in a bed until peace happened.
Right. John's certainly not free of criticism, as we've criticized him. I think this is like
one of his less self-aware moves of him saying like, what's your plan, revolutionaries? And I think this is really also interesting in today's climate. There are a lot of people who, myself included, who are very, very critical of the Democrat Party in America, of saying like, y'all aren't working. But a lot of times for the far left, legitimate criticism is, what is your plan?
It's true. And sometimes, and there is some that I think that the times where that becomes the most, like with like the hippie movement and now with like far left movement or whatever, there's always an element of those movements that really on both sides, there's always an element of each movement that where like people who are really just like have self-interested intentions glom onto it and unfortunately are like the loudest ones
Yes.
and make it seem like it's just like a directionless, like selfish endeavor.
Right.
That was like the undoing, I feel like, of the Occupy Wall Street, right? Is that like it's difficult to have a legitimate concern like that and then also like have but they had like real concerns, real plans, and then but it's a real enticing thing for like a bunch of college students who don't necessarily really know exactly what's going on to be like, oh, but like, so we're just mad about like not having a job. Fuck it, I'm mad about that.
Yeah.
And then you give fuel to the
distilled.
other side to be like, it's just a bunch of lazy fucking kids.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole movement becomes distilled by the followers who don't understand what they're
it becomes a
following
caricature
fully.
of the thing, and
That's why I am awestruck by the left of England right now. The Labour Party just took a commanding lead in ways that they haven't in like decades and decades.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are crediting it to Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour movement having specific goals and saying this is what we want to do.
Great.
And so I'm sure this is the sort of thing that that John was trying to write about. Like,
right.
Look,
let's just make some
I don't have a
deliberate.
good idea, but I'm saying that you guys don't seem to have your shit together. Now, excuse me while I go lay in a bed with my wife.
Lead by example, John.
Yeah,
I
we're
would
gonna
go
have
so
world
far
peace
to
that way.
say that this is one of John's non-Slytherin songs. Like, sure, he's high horsing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but the actual message and the fact that he's inadvertently sort of slapping himself in the face makes it a bit more of a Gryffindor.
I think
Oh, no,
Griff.
for sure. No,
Like-
this is a Griff for sure.
This is
'cause-
John's first Gryffindor, isn't it? On this album.
it
'Cause,
might
like,
very well be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like it's him looking at how's this affecting everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big step for him in his songwriting.
yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more strangely compassionate.
Yeah. Still a little confused,
Yeah.
but heart's in the right place.
Yeah. Now moving on to Honey Pie.
This
Honey
is the
pie.
honey
Not
pie.
Wild Honey Pie, so
No.
I apologize.
This one's a real song.
Yes.
But
You're
still,
making me crazy.
Paul's father was like a showman in the 20s, 30s,
Mhm.
probably more 30s, in sort of the classic vaudevillian tradition.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like flapper music.
I
Yeah.
love the sound of this one so much.
and that's
you and I
that's-
both love like those sort of like
schmaltzy.
Yeah. And it was an attempt just to do that. He was just trying to make a song that sounded like
It's a feel-good Hufflepuff
schmaltzy,
song.
Yeah. It's Hufflepuff. It's
no, and surprise, surprise, Lennon hated this one too.
Yeah. Lennon, I feel like hates. It at this stage at least, it seemed like he hated anything that wasn't like coded or something.
Mhm.
It was like too. I mean, there wasn't any reason for Honey Pie existing other than Paul just liked the music and he wanted to make a music like his dad made.
Mhm.
And I think that just didn't have enough fuel in it for John to find some meat to chew on.
Mhm. So now we're getting to Savoy Truffle,
Which apparently
What the hell?
is revelatory for our guest because you thought it was called what?
Well, in the song, it's 3 syllables. Savoy Truffle, which I always thought was savory truffle, which is like a real
maybe
real
they were just trying to-
tasting
but
like,
it's
truffle.
Savoy Truffle.
Yeah,
Apparently.
sometimes in songs
SAVOY.
they'll say words weirdly, and if
Oh,
it's not something
yeah.
in your own frame of reference,
like Savoy.
yeah, they were just maybe they were just trying to like
They were stretching
extend out the
syllables.
O.
But what the hell is Savoy?
Well, according to Wikipedia,
Oh, I know exactly what this is.
oh, you do?
Yeah, Savoy is a part of Germany. It's like
Oh
it's
my
so
God.
so this is like and a Savoy truffle is literally just in a box of chocolates that Eric Clapton liked to eat. It was one of the names of the chocolates in that box.
He
So
loves
it's like saying
sweets.
this is like more of a Belgian/German sort of chocolate. Because
Yeah.
Germans are famous for their chocolates, as we know in the long montage that Homer Simpson enjoyed when he thought that Germany was made of chocolate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just named after a chocolate.
Yeah, and that is George writing about his pal's love of chocolate. His then pal, they went through some shit later. You know about that, right?
What happened?
Ooh.
I love it.
Okay, the song Layla by Eric Clapton is about his then wife. So Eric's wife left him for George
Oh my
in like
God,
the
I
late
didn't know
60s,
this.
early 70s, like for his best friend George.
Oof.
And so Layla is about that. But they like somehow remained friends? I don't know. It was like
Yeah,
it was an era of some
it's like one of
serious
those like
free love.
Woody Allen type relationships where
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, how? Like in which one was it?
Then Eric's like kid fell out the window or something too in the same time period. I
Oh
don't
my
know. It's,
God,
like,
those
serious-
happened around the same time.
I think so. I could be wrong. Your
I'd be
listeners will
eating
tell
chocolates too. Are you kidding me? That's rough.
Yeah.
So where are we feeling on
Huff.
Truffle? It's yeah, okay.
Is a huff.
That's what I thought, because it's like a song kind of about.
It's just about chocolate.
It's just about chocolates.
It's just about how much he loves chocolate.
Crybaby Cry.
This is another one that I don't really know what the song is about, if it's really about much of anything.
I think this
I
is
mean-
probably a more experimental one. I know that the lyric "Crybaby Cry" was derived from a television commercial they were all familiar with.
Oh,
Yeah,
what kind of ad was that?
I don't know.
If
Cry, baby, cry,
if
no
we're
more
look-
with Tide detergent.
if we're looking at the lyrics, it says, "Cry, baby, cry, make your mother sigh. She's old enough to know better." And then the King of Marigold
Oh my God,
was
okay.
in the kitchen cooking breakfast for the Queen.
This is like a parody of a Beatles song.
The Queen was in the parlor playing piano for the children of the King. It like at least that opener,
Very English.
At least that opener makes me. So you were saying it was based on an ad?
As far as
Well, the word-
the
the
etymology,
title,
when I was
at least.
looking up stuff about it, apparently like "Crybaby Cry" was like a line reference to a television commercial.
It's written almost like an English nursery rhyme though.
It
A little
does.
bit, yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
very. It feels very like someone who's not British could not have written this.
Are we sending this to the realm of Hufflepuff? Just a little bit based on the fact that we don't fully understand it, but also on the fact that it does have that nursery rhyme quality to it, which I think is.
It doesn't really have. It's a miscellaneous song, and you know I hate to just like put it in a miscellaneous house, but there's no distinguishing qualities about it that would make it a Slytherin or a Gryffindor or a Ravenclaw.
No,
And
I
it's
think
like kind of good natured.
No,
It's nursery rhyme.
no, it's like non-offensive.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like not reading the the subtext of the song.
Mhm.
But it like all of these ones that are like don't have a very strong like political message are more likely to become Ravenclaws or Hufflepuffs.
Yeah.
Because Gryffindors and Slytherins are more likely to be
They're
political.
the less extreme houses,
Yeah.
the Ravenclaw and Huffpuff.
All right.
Oh boy.
Revolution 9.
Revolution number 9
Number 9.
is
Number 9.
a
Number 9. Number 9.
nine. Number 9.
It's just worth noting, I have been doing lyric searches, and just the lyric search for Revolution number 9 is just 4 lines of number
wonder how
9,
they
number
only
9,
decided
number
to
9,
put
number
4.
9.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And they were like, that's it.
They get it.
And
You guys
they,
get it.
Yeah.
Well,
This is a soundscape.
yeah, this is a soundscape. It's the only song on the album that myself and I think probably almost everyone, like, I feel like everyone acknowledges like it's cool that they did it, but I think unless you're stoned, like you're not just going to like let it play.
Now, I feel like that could be, you could take out the context of saying Revolution 9 and just put in Yoko Ono's work. Because this is the song that
This
is
is
most
super
influenced
Yoko.
by, and like admitted by Yoko. And here's the tea. Paul McCartney was not allowed to contribute to the song.
At
And
all?
he didn't want it to be on the album.
Really?
Yeah,
It
no,
does
this one.
say, if I'm looking at this correctly, it says that Paul McCartney was involved.
Well,
I
but
was-
it's just
I heard-
everything written by either Lennon or McCartney is listed as Lennon McCartney.
Yeah, there
Ah.
there
It's
are
just their-
songs like
their
Obla Di
deal.
Obla Da actually had another writer on it, and it was actually contested. Like, it was very controversial that he was not included in the credits. As far as I know, Paul McCartney was not. Let me make sure I'm not.
But it's interesting because it's, you know, like in Sgt. Pepper, they were really starting to get experimental. They were starting to experiment with like different soundscapes incorporated into traditional pop structures a little more. But with this song, it was kind of like, and I bet, like you're saying, Yoko having influence over this was just raw experimentation without any attempt to make it into a song. It was just goofing around with sound and seeing what happened.
Yeah, I just pulled back up the Wikipedia article that I do all of my extensive research on Wikipedia. And it said McCartney did not contribute to the track. He was unhappy. Although he was saying like it's too experimental, but that was just his cop out. He was doing equally experimental stuff at the time. So yeah, this is definitely one of those like Bad Blood sort of songs.
Yeah, it doesn't belong on the album because it's Yoko's song.
I will say, like, what do we think this guy is?
I think, well, here's my thing about Revolution Number 9, because it's difficult for me to tell whether or not it's a legitimate attempt at, or like a genuine experiment, or whether it's John just being like, and for you viewers at home, listeners at home, I'm just kind of hiding a middle finger.
Yeah.
So you think this was
he very quietly and slowly raised the middle finger, shielded by his other hand.
Yeah.
Like, this is how extra John McCartney, this is what a diva he was. Even his passive aggressive messages were avant-garde art pieces.
Yeah. It seems a little bit pretentious to put in the middle of a rock and roll album.
I do think that its placement, though, is actually pretty good. As far as it being like near the end of things, and then we get Goodnight as like the cap off. So you have this like, which is actually a little bit strange, just speaking as far as placement goes, that this cacophony or music, however you want to refer to it, could for some be seen as a nightmare, which following Goodnight would.
When I was a kid, it scared me because it was just, it seemed inhuman.
It's still creepy.
But then at the same time, there's this like Goodnight is the
antithesis of
the day is crazy. The day is Revolution Number 9. Yeah. But now you're getting tucked in and everything's okay.
So before we step into that one, where do we think Revolution 9? I'm gonna say it's probably Slytherin.
I think it's Slytherin.
It's probably Slytherin if it weren't done by John. If it had been a group collective effort, I think it would have gone Gryffindor or Hufflepuff.
Yeah, for the experiment,
it would be adventurous.
You have to be brave to be like, I'm committing to putting this sound that like is not easily digestible.
Like, I think in isolation, if you remove all the players from it, the argument would be for every house but Slytherin.
Yeah, and in most cases, sometimes we try to separate like maybe an artist's personal life from the work, or in some ways. But I think in the case of the Beatles, it's impossible because a lot of their work
we know so much about what they were doing and feeling,
and it motivated the works so directly that it's hard to like separate the artist from the art.
So now we're closing out the album. It's Goodnight. This is side 4, last song you hear,
sung by Ringo, but written by Paul.
Yeah, very interesting.
So this song, I always really liked it when I was a kid. It's more like a lullaby, but I never really got this song. I believe is bookending the album in a similar way that Back in the USSR starts the album, but a little more subtle in that we're ending, like, we just listened to Revolution Number 9. It's like an absolute like cacophony. You're left thinking like, what is happening with the world? Like the beat of these, they just wrote I Want to Hold Your Hand 4 years ago, and now a track on their album is like absolute noise. We've been through all of this like political examination and examination of self and this and that, and then at the end of the album ends with this like Hollywood ending with like a beautiful like swelling like Warner Brothers strings, and like it's like the a beautiful scripted font that says the end is like coming onto your screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
It ends with Ringo whispering, "Everybody, everywhere, good night." And it's just absolute thick schmaltz. And I think it is just, I don't think it's sincere at all. There's nothing sincere about this song in my mind. It's like, wouldn't it be funny if we ended this crazy album with just like a classic, beautiful Hollywood ending that is very like, that seems laughable in the current cultural context and the context of this album. It's like, okay, so there's this album that the Beach Boys put out in like 1970, I think, or the late 60s. Everybody was telling them like, oh, you need to get back to like the surf tunes, like the peppy, like, come on, let's write songs about girls and cars and everything. And they, it was the late 60s. The culture was in a completely different place. It would seem absurd to do that. So they made an album called Surf's Up, right? It's called Surf's Up, but the cover of the album is this painting. I don't know whether it's a famous painting or not, but the cover of the album just says Surf's Up, really tiny at the top. And below it is this painting of like a Native American, like slumped over a horse, just like looks like he might be like dead on the horse, just sitting there, and it's bleak and like blue and lifeless looking. And the songs are just about like the environment. Dying.
It's like a sort of cynicism.
Yeah,
that seemed to be like it felt like if you were a young person at this time and you were not deeply cynical of everything about around the entire establishment. That you weren't creating honest, true art.
And it's using the word surf's up as like a turn of phrase, and like surf's up, like something's done. It's it. Mm-hmm. Surf's up. We're done. But coded, because if you just saw on paper the name of a Beach Boys album, Surf's Up, you'd be like, oh, of course.
Yeah, you'd assume it's fun, and you're immediately greeted with that image, and then you're like, well, maybe this is just, ironic visual turn. And then you put on the album and you're like,
yeah.
So you think that this was the same approach that the Beatles were doing?
I think that Good Night is like an attempt to make something so incongruent with everything that's surrounding it culturally and everything that's surrounding it on the album that it like in theory is the way that a movie or like a classic thing should end. But because of the trajectory that like everything had taken up until then, it becomes like comical and almost a little grotesque.
And then it
feels strange.
Does it also, I think it's even made odder in then suddenly providing Ringo with the closing vocals. Because
Ringo
the whole
is
time,
like the least romantic member of the Beatles, and he's singing this like beautiful, lovely song about like sweet dreams of me. And
now, do we think are we going to take that context in consideration? Because otherwise, it feels like a pretty Hufflepuff, like solid Hufflepuff song.
And on the surface, I think it seems like Hufflepuff.
But do you think
it is exactly what you have said that Paul McCartney is. You said when we first sorted the Beatles in our first part that he masquerades as a Hufflepuff, but is in fact a Slytherin.
He's got some rage, man.
And that's what we're saying with this, right?
I think it is. I might be heightening. I might be like injecting a little more extreme drama into this.
I think we're allowed to be a bit hyperbolic. The Beatles are undisputedly.
And I love drama.
Yeah. No, I think that.
There just like, I
think that this
everybody
is
fight.
using like it's both. It starts and ends. This album starts and ends with like a postmodern statement.
Mm-hmm.
Of like taking an element of the culture that had so recently been earnest and like turning it on its head to be something a little gross and a little like
it's like what Andy Warhol's doing with fine art. Yeah, like he's taking like things that everyone knows. Like these are like this song. It sounds like a song that you've heard 1,000 other times, and like making and like exaggerating and being like, why is this what we're being told everybody wants?
And they were just pranksters too. So it's probably just like. To be like, oh, okay, on Yeezus, Kanye's album, like, have you guys listened to it at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's it's like so different than all his other albums, right? He doesn't have like the same like just happy soul samples and everything. And there's I believe it's in the first song. It's like this just like industrial like beeping, bleeping, grinding sort of like cold song. and in the middle of it, he says something about like something about like what you want, or like, is this what you want, or whatever. And the song like stops short. Like it just like, there's no transition. It stops short, and like a soul sample plays for like 10 seconds, and it becomes clear like he can't be using these anymore. It sounds wrong. He's like, oh, is this what you want? And like presses a button and a soul sample plays, and he's like, oh yeah, that's not right anymore, Kanye. And then it shifts immediately back into this like harsh, like computerized song.
Oh, wow.
I think that, yeah, that's Good Night.
Oh, gotcha.
I think it's important when artists can identify and say, like, I'd go so far to say that Edgar Wright has a new movie coming out, Baby Driver, but like the last movie, I think it was the last movie at World's End that he put out, was like him, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost all being like, we aren't those guys from like Spaced and Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz anymore. Like, we all have to grow up. Like, that's what that movie is. And I think all artists...
That's one of my favorite things in art, is like self-aware, like killing of their past selves.
Right. Yeah, and I think because there can be a real pushback on any evolution of an artist, even though that all of the greatest artists had to change.
Because everybody always goes like, I just wish it was the way it was, because I love nostalgia. And for anything to move forward, you have to evolve, you have to change, you have to grow. And for anybody to assume that someone is going to be locked in to one type of thing is short-sighted and a little bit shallow, perhaps.
You know what, this may be a potentially unpopular opinion. I think that we are now living in a nostalgia culture.
Oh, we are for sure.
But I don't like it because we are removing the melancholy and the wistfulness of nostalgia, because nostalgia is not something you're supposed to linger on and obsess over it on its own.
Well, I think there's a large industry that believes that nostalgia is a thing that we want, and we're constantly flocking back to it. But more and more, we're seeing that nostalgia will not fill the hole of somberness that we're like,
because nostalgia, like, inherently, like, part of the feeling of nostalgia in my mind is a little bit of sadness that it's not there anymore.
It's a moment that's gone.
Yeah. Just recreating the past today is not nostalgia. Well, that's just like denial.
And it's also bizarre because at the same time we live in this postmodern entertainment field, and I'm talking more specific to movies, but like, you see with things like Baywatch gets a new release, but then they also have to post-modernize it, so it's got this weird meta slant, so it's not the same thing. And
it's
so
like stupid people seeing what Christopher Nolan did and being like, we got to do that too,
It's a pastiche of what it was without being earnest or honest about what it was, while still assuming that it can pour itself through the meat grinder of nostalgia. And all of this is just like garbled bullshit spewing out of my mouth, I feel, at this point.
No, don't get self-conscious about it. I think you're right on the money.
I think you're an idiot.
Thank you, Derek.
Do we want to sort Hey Jude?
That's right. It was like kind of in the same...
It was a single that was, I think, recorded around the same time, but it was released as its own single before the album.
Right.
I did not know that.
We would be remiss not to include it in the canon, because it's also one of the most successful songs the Beatles ever released. By like,
it was a bigger single than anything on the album.
Yeah, it's like the best performing song of all of their songs.
It is my favorite Beatles song as well.
Yeah, like I think just by 1970 something, like 1972 or something, it had already sold 7.5 million copies.
Give me the skinny.
Wait, we didn't sort Goodnight.
Oh no, we didn't.
Oh,
no,
I thought we
said it's masquerading as a Hufflepuff. It's a really
masquerading.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Yeah.
Hey Jude. Well, I know that it was written by Paul for John's son, because there was all sorts of shit going around. You know, at the time there was a lot of John was leaving Cynthia, Julian Lennon, Julian Lennon's mother, and like hanging around with Yoko, and Julian, I think, was just kind of like caught up in the mix here.
And I think it speaks to Lennon's inability to be self-aware in the same way, like his bigger political messages, how much effort he was going to be pouring into trying to reconcile not having a relationship with his mother, and what was he putting Julian through?
Right, he
at
wasn't
the same
focusing
time.
on what was right in front of him.
He was not there for Julian.
It's kind of like Paul trying to be Julian's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He like saw a need. I think it's one of Paul's most noble, like selfless songs.
To
me, it's a Gryffindor.
Well,
It's
through and
pure
through.
soaring
Yeah.
Gryffindor.
Through and through.
But it is one of those beautiful things, despite all the infighting, despite the artistic bullshit, they still, like, there was the part that cared for one another. And that's what,
Right.
at least, I mean, maybe I'm putting a more schmaltzy thing, and maybe that's because I lean a little bit more on Paul.
And I think it's still, even musically, like it's a song that brings people together.
Yeah.
It's because the song, well, I've never thought about this before. The song forces everyone to come together. It's all the Beatles singing the refrain together. When it's played live, the Beatles never played it live, but when Paul plays it live now, or when it's just played, everyone always sings the na-na-nas together, and it forces you to do them for like a lot longer than you normally would. It forces all of them to be together in a time that they like weren't seeing eye to eye, and repeat and repeat and repeat, almost like a meditation or a mantra. This unity. This
Well,
No,
and
and they're.
it also does a kind of cool thing now, just talking about like bringing the band together. It drops the music out and says, even without the music, like we're still together, sort of thing.
I will say, it is very much, I think, an exquisite song because John Lennon was always saying like, "Love is the answer, love is the answer."
Yeah.
But in the same way that isn't necessarily a blueprint for how to live your life, Paul McCartney here is saying you need to try to choose happiness, and you need to try to find happiness where you can in life. And I think that is a more concrete like way to tell somebody to find that love.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very much
It's realistic.
yeah. And in the same way, he kind of, he's like, you're consciously choosing it. You're forcing happiness into your life, love into your life. The same way when they do that those na-na-nas over and over again, it's almost like a call to action. It's saying we're starting right now.
Yeah.
We're going to be happy right now, and we're going to do it singing.
Yeah.
Which is like the most pure expression of happiness that one can do.
Yeah.
It's
just
to
a
sing.
chant, group chant.
Yeah. And
love
so I love it. It's a Gryffindor song if there's ever going to be a Gryffindor song written. Because
Yeah.
it's like it's telling everybody.
That song like brings me pure joy when I listen to it, and it just increases and increases as it continues on through the repetition.
And as far as pure joy goes, it has been a pure joy to sort the White Album with you,
shut up.
Derek.
Oh, shut up!
Oh my gosh, he's waving his fists.
I love the drama. I love that
thank you.
we're having.
I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I think we would have to have a big fight, and somebody should like leave for a while, and then that's how we play homage to the White Album. So bye.
Bye.
Okay, well,
Wait, no, we
I know
need you.
Ringo.
We
Yeah,
need you.
well,
Who's gonna play the drums now?
we'll have to do
How are we
it.
gonna do the big outro?
We'll do it for 2 tracks, and then
Okay,
Ringo
we'll
will
share
be back.
duties. Yeah.
So where else can we can find you with playing with the Regal Peaches?
You can
You're
find
on
me playing with the Regal Peaches.
on Spotify, SoundCloud.
We're playing. I forgot about this the last time. We're playing this show called the International Pop Overthrow Festival. We're later in July or August. I wish I knew more information about it.
Well, if you search the Regal Peaches, I'm sure you can find out more
You'll
information.
figure it out. Regal Peaches. We're on Facebook. We're all over the place. We're on Spotify, iTunes. Myself, I'm Derek, and you can find me at Derek. That's DerekSheath. Derek S. Heath. That's anywhere. Twitter, Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah, we can find you in many a
If
place.
you want, if you're interested, but I'm not like, just so you know, there's not like a lot going on there.
You can also find me, Michael, at Belated Media on Twitter, and you can find Reed.
You can
at,
find me I came back. Ringo came back, by the way. He left the recording and then he came back
He
later.
did come back.
And like they just were like, we'll carry on.
Yeah.
You can find me at that Katie Reed on social media platforms. Oh, and you can find us on Google Play or iTunes. We'd really, really appreciate it if you could like stop by and give us a rating because we really want to get more feedback from y'all.
Yes, give us ratings because those sorts of reviews really help us. So thank you all so much
Do you
for
want to fade out on a na?
yeah.
We
Oh,
have to.
absolutely.
Na 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 na.